There we go. Nice.
2 more minutes in that construction zone on scenic and it'll be good.
Oh, I know. I had the same issue. Jennifer, can you confirm that you guys can hear me, or do you want to?
I can hear you right now.
Okay, perfect. Hey, Jennifer. Okay, here we go.
Oh, you tried to get rid of it.
Okay.
Feels better anyway.
I think we're ready to go here. So with the time being 1:32, I will call the October 15th, 2025 Well Mitigation Plan Workshop to order. This is a formally noticed meeting, as we have a quorum here. Of note, there will be no action taken at this meeting. Just a reminder, this meeting is focused on the well mitigation program, not management actions. So we will have a time to talk about management actions in the future, but this is not the meeting. So, like I said, I have a quorum here. So to my far left, starting on my left, we've got Darren Smallin with the City of Riverbank. Next to him, working towards me, we've got Jeff Roberts, City of Oakdale, finding him on the list here. Next to me on my left is Christy McKinnon with Stanislaus County. I am Eric Thorburn with Oakdale Irrigation District. To my right is Tim Barahona with the City of Modesto. And next to him is Jesse Franco with MID. So we'll start, as we usually do at our meetings, with business from the public. So at this time, interested persons are welcome to introduce any topic within the GSA's jurisdiction. Matters presented under this heading may be discussed, but no action will be taken by the GSA at this meeting. It's not required, but speakers may state their name and address. Public comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. So I'll open it up to those in the room. Anyone with public comments? Okay, seeing none. Any on the phone? All right. Item number 3, this is the draft well mitigation plan, and Todd Groundwater is here to provide a presentation. So welcome Iris and Liz with Todd Groundwater.
Thank you, Eric. So, I'm Iris Staff. I'm happy to be here and appreciate your coming to talk about the well mitigation program. And you can see that this is a little workshop for.
Green, we're good. Oh. Shall I start? I'm Iris Priestaff with Todd Groundwater here today to talk about the well mitigation program. I have my colleague, Liz Elliott, who is a principal hydrogeologist with our company. So we want to talk to you about the well mitigation program, and that this is the fourth workshop. So I wanted to do a little recap. And the recap is that workshop number 1 really was an introduction to the concepts, like why are we doing this? What are we doing? What services are being offered? How is the program going to roll out for someone who needs it? So workshop number 2 was in May 2025, and that really started to dig into some of the plan elements. Plus, the key thing was that we had a presentation by Self-Help Enterprises, SHE. And why self-help? Well, I think a lot of people already know that self-help has been providing services to people whose wells go dry for a very long time across the San Joaquin Valley. So they're professional, they're experienced, they know how to do it. So it makes huge sense to collaborate. So, why SHE? Well, from the standpoint of the GSA and the community they serve, it makes a lot of sense. It's going to reduce the administrative burden. So it's cost effective, it's efficient. It recognizes that the nature of the program is short term. I mean, the fact is, we don't plan for having dry wells going on indefinitely. The whole plan is to stop the groundwater level decline and then at some point turn it around. So there won't be any need. So it's short term. And then we also have an adaptive approach with self-help. So we're planning on collaborating with them during program implementation. So anyway, let me get back to the list, and you can see workshop number 3 is gray. That's because workshop number 3 was all about the management actions. This is well mitigation. So we really did not have a presentation at that point, though we appreciate people having come, provided comments, and the fact is, the next workshop on that is going to be in November. But now, we released the draft well mitigation program October 1st. So I'm hoping that if there's more comments, questions that occur to you, that you'll bring them up now. And let's discuss it. Also, I wanted to say that comments on the well mitigation program are due on October 24th. Okay, so again, the objective of today's workshop, discuss the draft well mitigation plan. So why do we need a well mitigation program? Well, the fact is that long-term groundwater level declines have occurred in the non-district east, and they have impacted the OID and MID management areas. In developing the GSP, we had 2027 interim milestones, and some of these were placed below the minimum threshold. And again, you all know the minimum threshold is like, you really don't want to go below it. But we needed a little bit of leeway. So that was what the interim milestones were about. So we developed those for the monitoring wells within the non-district east, NDE, and the OID management areas. So groundwater levels are anticipated to decline before recovering as a result of projects and management actions. But, we all know recovery is going to take some time. And the fact is, DWR requires that the GSA provide mitigation for affected wells. So at this point, the revised GSP included an analysis of potential impacts to water supply wells of all sorts. That would be due to groundwater levels going down because of management actions across the subbasin, decreasing to the minimum thresholds, and then potentially down to the interim milestones. So that's another reason that we are here. So Eric, can I ask, should we just keep going so that questions and comments at the end?
It's up to you.
Oh, any questions or comments at this point? Seeing none, I'm going to hand it over to Liz Elliott to talk about this well analysis that we did. So, Liz, please.
Thank you. And like Iris said, my name is Liz Elliott. I'm a hydrogeologist at Todd Groundwater, and we've been working together on this plan with the GSA's committee for about the last 9-10 months. So I'm going to start out, as Iris said, talking a little bit about the well impacts analysis that we did. This analysis is in the revised GSP that we submitted to DWR in July 2024 and was subsequently approved in February 2025, earlier this year. So the first thing we did was we looked at the impacts at the minimum threshold. What is the risk of wells going dry if all the water levels reach the minimum threshold? The way we did this is we compiled all records of wells in the subbasin that we could get our hands on, primarily from DWR's well completion report database. We looked at all water supply wells, municipal, industrial, domestic, and agricultural. We used well records whose records contained construction information so that we would know how deep the well was. And it included about 4,500 wells throughout the subbasin. And we included every record, regardless of how old the well was or the status. The status we don't know, right? These are records that were filed with the state when the wells were constructed. We don't know if they're still active or not. So because we don't know if they're active or not, we're being conservative here, right? We're including them in this analysis. And what we did was we compared the minimum threshold and the interim milestone groundwater elevations at the representative monitoring wells to the total depth of these 4,500 supply wells. And the first step was to look at what happens at the minimum threshold. And what we found was that approximately 126 wells could potentially go dry when water levels were lowered to the minimum threshold. And so the map you're looking at shows little gray dots. Every little gray dot is one of those 4,500 wells. And the red dots are those 126 wells that could potentially go dry at the minimum threshold. Most of them, as you can see, are in the eastern principal aquifer. There's one in the western upper principal aquifer. The second step to this analysis was, and this was a question DWR asked, was if you were lowering water levels below the minimum threshold to the interim milestone, what effect is that going to have on wells? Well, we looked at this, and if the groundwater elevation continues to lower to reach the IM, the analysis shows that there's maybe 29 wells that could potentially go dry at the IM. And those are the red dots shown on this map. And this includes 27 domestic wells and 2 agricultural wells. As you can see, all the dry wells, potentially dry wells, are in the eastern principal aquifer. And overall, these 29 wells are older and shallower than the average age and depth of the wells in the subbasin, so older and shallower. So that was the analysis based on well records. So then you ask, well, how many have actually been reported dry? Well, before the GSP was adopted in January 2022, there were almost 160 domestic wells that were reported either dry or failed to the county between 2014 and 2017. This was during obviously the drought. Since the GSP was adopted in January 2022, a total of 15 domestic wells have been reported dry or failed, and that's what this map is showing. In 2022, a total of 13 wells were reported dry, and those are the orange dots. In 2023, 2 wells were reported dry or failed, and those are the 2 green dots. And in 2024, no wells were reported dry or failed. So this is actually what has occurred since the GSP was adopted in January 2022. So then pivoting to the well mitigation plan. Why are we doing this? Well, DWR wanted to understand how the impacts to wells could be mitigated. And when we developed the revised GSP, the GSA committed to creating a well mitigation program by January 2026. This was a resolution that the GSA passed that was in the revised GSP. So earlier this year, the Sturgba GSA formed a well mitigation plan committee that includes representatives from Modesto Irrigation District, Oakdale Irrigation District, and Stanislaus County. And over the last 9-10 months, this committee has developed a draft plan document based on the revised GSP analysis and also review of other well mitigation plans. And this is the public draft that was released about 2 weeks ago on October 1st. So there are 3 key topics that we want to talk about today. One is, what is the purpose of this well mitigation plan? Meaning, what is covered and what is not? What are the dry well services that are going to be offered? What are they, and who will provide these services? And then we also want to talk about the application process. What is the application process, and how is this going to work? Starting out with the purpose. The purpose is to provide mitigation for drinking water wells having adverse impacts due to declining groundwater levels from groundwater management activities since January 31st, 2022, which is the date that the GSP was adopted, the original GSP. This plan is focused on domestic and small water system wells. It's due to basin management, not other problems, such as electrical or failed pump. Potential impacts to wells from water quality and subsidence that have been caused by declining groundwater levels have not been documented in this subbasin, and as part of the revised GSP, we did an analysis and did not see a correlation between the two, groundwater levels and effects on water quality and subsidence. And again, this plan is focused on wells that have become dry after January 2022, after the GSP was adopted. Dry well services. So what services are going to be provided for wells that go dry? Well, first off, there's going to be an emergency water supply. This is in the form of bottled water delivered to the home immediately. The next step is the interim short-term solution. This can be either a continuation of the bottled water or filling a water tank at your house. And then long-term can include several things. Can include deepening the pump setting, deepening the well, constructing a new well, or connecting to an existing water system. As Iris mentioned before, the committee and the GSA have been working closely with Self-Help Enterprises to develop this plan. Self-Help Enterprises, or SHE, has substantial experience providing these services to domestic wells throughout the San Joaquin Valley. They've been helping well owners in this subbasin already with wells that have gone dry or failed. So they're experienced throughout the valley and in this subbasin, and they know what they're doing. So the Well Mitigation Plan Committee is working with Self-Help Enterprise right now on revising a draft agreement. So that is being worked out now, and the plan is that once this plan is adopted and implementation begins in January 2026, the agreement will be in place. So what does the application process look like? The application is going to go through Self-Help Enterprises. They have an application, they already have an application that will document the location, basic information about the well, the pump, the facility, the right of entry, etc. The application will go to Self-Help Enterprises, they will review it, and if they think that the problem is possibly caused by GSA management, then they're going to send it over to us, to the Well Mitigation Plan Committee. The Well Mitigation Plan Committee will establish a technical review committee to review each application. And the applicant must provide evidence that demonstrates that the failure of their well was caused by GSA management, and also allow for on-site inspection either by the committee members, technical review committee members, or Self-Help Enterprises, or all of the above. So who's eligible for mitigation? Well, any well impacts that occurred after the date of GSP adoption, January 31st, 2022, is eligible, as long as the dry well was caused by GSA management. The applications for impacts that occurred between the date of adoption, January 2022, and the adoption of this program, which is anticipated to be January 2026, must be submitted within 6 months of the date of adoption of this program to be eligible. The participation in this program is not limited or dictated by landowners' income, and the eligibility will be determined by the Technical Review Committee. If eligible, the maximum mitigation award will be $40,000. So what's next? So again, we released this draft well mitigation plan on October 1st, and we ask that you provide comments by the end of next week, which is October 24th. We anticipate that adoption of this plan by the GSA board will occur in January 2026. The committee will continue working with SHE on an agreement, and will finalize this agreement by that time. And we'll also finalize the well mitigation plan based on any comments that we receive, continue the public outreach, and we'll continue, and there will be online access to resources. The goal here is to implement the well mitigation program by January 31st, 2026, in accordance with the resolution that was passed in July 2024 that went along with the revised GSP. So that's what we've got. Any questions? Yes.
I'm unclear on what GSA management is. And you talk, the simplistic view of it that I have is groundwater pumping.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Groundwater pumping.
Well, it's the same. You know, any groundwater pumping related to, you know, the management of the subbasin that lowers the groundwater table below the well, and it's clear that that's caused by the pumping that's managed by the GSA will be.
And my second comment is, I truly appreciate the need for potable water and how this can be an emergency. But I'm skeptical if there shouldn't be some sort of a needs test to prevent let's hypothetically say, a Silicon Valley industrial rancher worth billions of dollars getting a free ride on a new well.
Yeah. Well, again, Self-Help Enterprises will do the initial screening, right? And I mean, if it turns out that the well is dry because of GSA management, then they're eligible for this program and will be kicked over to the Well Mitigation Committee and Technical Review Committee. If it's clear that it has nothing to do with GSA management, it could be handled by Self-Help Enterprises. And if it's handled by Self-Help Enterprises, they do have an income limit, 80% of MHI. So if you're above that income limit, they will not help that landowner. They will not reimburse that landowner. They have a grant, there's a grant program through the state that they get money for to help people below that and 80% MHI. So a very rich landowner whose well went dry not because of GSA management will not be reimbursed for well mitigation. That will be on their own dime.
Okay, but I'm still hung up on this GSA management. If the well goes dry just because you're pumping a lot of water, isn't that GSA management?
So it's really about basin management. And the GSA is now, has responsibility for this basin. So it's not gonna happen, but if groundwater, don't just let them go down, then that would be a decision of this, the wrong decision by the GSA. But that would be a management decision. And if someone's well went dry, then there's a need for mitigation. There's a lot of, one can sit and spin a lot of scenarios about, well, gee, if not in this basin, in another basin, the GSA decided, well, we can't have, pumping here, we're gonna have pumping over there. And that shift of pumping dried up somebody. That would be basin management. Again, I'm just spinning scenarios. But to your other point about Mr. Megabucks from Silicon Valley, the other thing is that we're looking at mostly domestic and small water system wells. And there's a cap of $40,000. So it's actually hard for me to imagine that a rich person would mess with it. But it's there to provide mitigation, to provide, again, potable water for someone who really needs it. But $40,000 is the cap. Again, I would also emphasize that the GSA has discretion to look at these applications. One never knows when there's going to be that particular circumstance. And so they do have discretion, again, to serve the community and protect the community. So does that answer your question?
Hardly. I was assuming, and I don't know, hopefully you do. Do you now have the knowledge base to know how water flows, subterranean water flows, so you can tell whether your basin management in location A, which is 5 miles from location B, affects location B?
Well, I would say that Liz does. She knows the groundwater levels in all of these wells and the patterns of flow. When you were talking before about groundwater levels in a well going down, there might be a circumstance where somebody starts pumping more. Big irrigation well comes in next door to you. Well, that's when it gets a little bit tricky, because that's not necessarily a basin management, it's well interference. But again, this is where I think the GSA has discretion.
And that's where the mechanism you set up would have to judge
Yes. Okay.
that helps.
That's why we have several different layers too. So it goes to self-help. They're gonna do the administration. They also have a lot of staff that do these kinds of investigation, and then they bring that to the well mitigation plan committee. Then we have a technical review committee that's set up for that specific well, and they have certain people that are there. So in the management area, we have one person there. We have somebody from Stanislaus County there. We have our own technical representative. So there's a lot of eyes on this. The important part is getting them a temporary supply of water while we figure out whether it was a GSA-related impact or not. And then at that point, it goes through all those steps to try and weed those things out like you're talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
We have another question online, I believe.
Is it me online?
Yes,
We
please.
can hear you.
Yeah, I can't see.
Okay.
Sorry, Jennifer.
Hi, I am Jarin Tasnim Anika. I work with UC Cooperative Extension. and I work with socially disadvantaged and underrepresented small scale growers. So I went through the draft mitigation program, and I have some couple of, not couple of, like connected, some connected questions. The first question about the landowner, like income related question. So how my clients work is they lease land from landowners. Maybe maybe there is one tenant grower, or there might be like multiple tenant growers within small area, but the landowner might not be associated with agriculture. Now my question is, like, in these kind of situations, how do you plan to address the issue of going dry? And what if the lease terms changes and some of the growers are not there, not growing anything next year? Because I see like there should be like 5 years holding of that property or something like that. So in this scenario, if lease term changes and the growers do not farm there anymore, but the landowner is there, but the growers actually received this assistance, then how you are going to work on this? And second question is, I see that there is a requirement that the groundwater data will be public, but how about the other information, like the growers information, location? Because a lot of growers I meet, they are kind of scared of taking any assistance from different organizations because of this privacy concern. So how do you think you are going to protect their privacy in this regard? Thank you very much.
Well, let me take a whack at it. It sounded like you were making a distinction between like a person on the land, growing the crops using the well, and then an absentee owner. Well, the fact
Yes.
is that if there's going to be work done on a well, access to a property, we actually have to deal with the land owner and the well owner. So if it's, someone who's simply raising the crops, they do have to go and get the landowner and the well owner engaged. Because otherwise we legally can't do anything. And the second question,
Yes, so I'm sorry, can you repeat the second question again?
So the second question is, when I was going through the draft mitigation program, plan, I saw that the groundwater data will be publicly available, I guess, if I didn't get it wrong. So, but I know that a lot of growers that I work with are kind of scared to take advantage of this funding because they are scared of um, making their location, name, and other information public. So, how do you plan to protect this kind of data so that they are like they trust the process and take advantage of those fundings?
well, the fact is that a lot of data on wells is already out there, and we already have it. It's compiled by the Department of Water Resources. They have location, at least sort of. They have construction sometimes, but not always, and information on use and such as that. So we already have it. So that's not a privacy issue, unless, of course, the person put in the well and the driller did not file a well completion report and presumably doesn't have a permit. So that's not legal. And if a person does want to have some assistance with a well going dry, it seems reasonable that we have some information on that well. We're not necessarily assuming that the owner of a well that's gone dry is going to come in with a whole box full of documents. But help us out here. Please let us know what you know about your well. And this isn't just us, representing the GSA. Self-help is going to ask for that information too. Simply part of the process. If a person decides that privacy is more important than having, some help with a well that's drying up?
Yeah, typically, landowner information, parcel information is all publicly available data. What wouldn't be shared is our emails, phone numbers, even pumping records typically wouldn't be shared, but everything else would generally be public information and typically pretty readily available, actually.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Afternoon. If we go back- Yeah, no problem. Good afternoon. If we go back to slide 4, Liz, you mentioned this was compiled off of DWR records. I think back in February, I was asking about the county records. Do these records match the county? Has the county looked and found 4,563 wells? Have you found 8,000? Has anybody thought to maybe just double check our resources? As one comment on this presentation, and then to follow up on slide 6, just, if we take the 159 wells that had failed in the last 10 years, and you put that $40,000 maximum to it, you're talking about $6 million. I think the budget this year was $1 million. Right, I think that's what you guys had talked about. 300,000? Okay, so, yeah, 6 million's far off from if this program was in place. And so I think there's obviously serious economic factors here that need to be, I think, hashed out a little bit more.
Yeah. So I'll start with your question on this slide, the one you just asked. So first of all, a lot of these wells that were reported dry or failed to the county between these 3 years, they were due to pump problems, electrical problems, well problems. They're not all because of water levels declining. Some were, yes. These cases have been responded to, right? So what we're focused on is what has happened since the GSP was adopted, right? And this map shows the 15 reports of dry or failed wells since the GSP was adopted. Now, of these 15, some of them may be because the well casing cracked. Some of them could be because of pump problems, electrical problems. They may not be due to lowering of groundwater levels. So of these 15, we're not sure how many are due to GSA management. So, and I think Self-Help said that of the applications they get for dry or failed wells, like usually about 5% are actually due to water level issues. Most are due to other issues. And so that's another huge reason why the committee is engaging Self-Help, because they do the screening and they know what they're doing and they know what to look for. Does that answer your question?
And a lot of these wells that went dry it's been resolved.
Yeah.
They're not waiting for this program, and if it was, 2014 to 2017, that's too long ago. It's pre-GSP management, so the responsibility isn't there. And even the ones like 2022, my understanding was they've been resolved. Self-help in some cases, or the people fix them themselves. So that's not the number that we need to think about. Is that the next slide, Liz?
Well, this was what's actually happened.
Okay,
Are you referring to
I'm
this?
sorry. Going back to that.
Yeah.
Oops.
This was just an analysis, a paper analysis of what could happen if water levels reach the IM. This is theoretical, based on this conservative estimate, based on all of these well records that we gathered. So your question about that, going back to slide 4, the counties, we did not check the county's records. The state's records are the comprehensive records that we use for analyses. But in theory, any record that the county has is supposed to go to the state as well. So the counties, it should match.
Yeah, the other thing is, just to clarify on the next slide, that's not all gonna happen at one time. It hasn't happened yet, and it wouldn't happen suddenly, you wouldn't think. So hopefully you're getting through the first 6 months, catching up to where you've got everybody retroactive back to 2022, and then moving forward, you've got incremental issues. And then that's why in the end of the program, we talk about replenishing that 300,000 as needed. And each year kind of an analysis, doing an analysis on where that's occurring and who should be replenishing that and how much is really needed.
Hi, I'm Ethan Andrews from Provo and Pritchard. First, just want to say, Liz and Iris, thank you for that presentation. It was really well put together. I want to follow up on some other questions that were asked in the room, but for clarification, that $40,000, that's just for the mitigation of the well, right? That doesn't include the application process, correct?
That includes all of the mitigation, supply water, deepening the well, deepening the pump, whatever is done.
Got it. So do we have an idea of kind of the projected costs of just the application process and like the technical review committee and what kind of review that might include and what the cost is? And I think it would be beneficial to see, I know that this is on the screen right now, kind of worst case scenario, including the exceedances at the MT, but it would be beneficial to see like per management area, if that kind of happens over time, not all at once, what that cost might be, because the technical review committee includes a representative from that management area. So I think that that would be beneficial to see, but are there any numbers that you guys have for just the review process?
Well, I don't have numbers for the review process, but we have numbers that we've gotten from self-help enterprises. This is how much it would cost to supply bottled water, a tank, et cetera. And so we do I don't have those at the top of my head. But yes, there are incremental costs for responding to dry wells.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we actually got costs from their experience so far, and then they also gave us costs for our area, because if you go down south, the wells have to be much deeper than they are here. And so we kind of translated that and came up with that 40,000 as being reasonable to satisfy the state and to replace a well. But as far as the administration, there were costs from self-help that they provided. And that's above and beyond the $40,000 that the applicant, a successful applicant, would be reimbursed for. The rest of the technical review is really something that we envision being in kind by those member agencies and accountants. Yeah.
Thank you. And then one more question on slide 9 about the purpose of the mitigation plan. So following up on the question from the gentleman in front of me about the groundwater management activities and that being defined as groundwater pumping, and also maybe another scenario, and we'll submit comments to next week, but I'm kind of curious, well, one, to add those definitions of management activities, but also fleshing it out. It also says the purpose of the plan is to mitigate adverse impacts due to declining groundwater levels from basin management activities, and then declining groundwater levels associated with basin management on water supply wells, and then also just during GSP implementation. So I think if we just have like the one definition, I think that would be clear.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Seems like to me you're being awfully generous. If somebody goes and buys a ranchette and an old well, an old pump that's 30 or 40 years old, maybe you should just go 50% of the cost rather than 40,000. Maybe you cut it back.
Yeah, we actually discussed that, at some length. But consider this scenario. A person has had a 100-foot deep well, and they were doing just fine with it. And then again, it comes down to the basin management. And if basin management results in groundwater levels going down and drying it up, then it's not about it being 50 or 40 years old or whatever. So if I could characterize that, it's kind of the reasoning we came to.
But at the same time, the condition of the well is going to be looked at.
Yes.
Right. So if it's not pumping water because the pump is old and it's not working, that's obviously not a water level issue.
Yeah, what you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna end up going out there and videoing the well, seeing what the depth of the well is, looking at records for water levels around that, seeing where those two are relate to each other. Having records from them showing that they've been pumping since 2022, and the well they didn't just buy the property today and it's all of a sudden dry. Having some kind of evidence to substantiate that claim is what's going to be important, and that's part of that investigative process.
Yeah, to kind of follow up on that, Eric, on slide 3, it immediately points to the overdraft in the non-district east. So if they continue to pump without any reason to not pump, other than we sit and talk about it, these problems will continue to get exacerbated. I think everybody should be reminded that there's not a single party up here where the non-district east is having to put $1 into the kitty, except for their taxes to the county, which we're all paying, and I'm paying MID, and I'm paying the city of Modesto. So the problem child, again, in this plan, from a funding mechanism, is not responsible. And we're based on management actions and the whole plan, and I understand that, and I understand we're working to it. But, you know, if there's a ranchette in the non-district east and the house goes dry because he's pumping his 1,000 acres of trees, and then he can come back and get 40 grand for his well rehabilitation, you know, it's just kind of, I think Mr. Bruchetta was kind of chiming in on that a little bit as well, and this gentleman, it continues where the non-district east doesn't have to put $1 up, but we all get to. And I understand that we should when these issues are happening basin-wide, but if from your guys' diagrams, you know, the dots are red towards the east side. So just a little bit more food for thought.
Yeah, I think if you look at the maps, a lot of the reason that the wells are where they are shallow is because they're kind of around those city areas, those urban areas. And so it's hard to say, you know, to assess somebody for an impact that hasn't occurred yet. That's kind of where we're at. That's the problem. And I think that's why the approach from our perspective was you got to start with money in the bank, you know, address issues as they occur. And if we're seeing that everything is because of non-district east pumping, for example, then I think we can come back and have a good case for saying that they need to provide more funding. That's just my own personal opinion and perspective, but we need to start somewhere. And we made a commitment to the state that we would start somewhere by a certain deadline. And so that's why we've got $300,000 in the budget set aside, allocated to the program now. Moving forward, we don't know where that's gonna go. But, and hopefully we get no claims, but we don't know what we've got until we get started.
If I may make one further comment. Okay. I'm assuming that your program is dealing with just domestic water use rather than ag use, and that the domestic wells are a small percentage of the total wells subject to this whole plan. Is that correct?
We're focused on domestic wells because, one, they tend to be shallow, so they are at greater risk. And then there's the whole thing, it's drinking water.
Well, everyone's sympathetic to drinking
Yeah,
water.
and I heard you.
But if you, we're really talking about a small number of wells,
Yes.
aren't we?
Yes.
Compared to the whole universe of ag and industrial and the small number of domestic wells combined.
Yes. It is a small number of wells.
Yeah, and that 4,300 includes ag and domestic wells, right?
It includes all
So-
water supply wells.
Yes, that's a valid point.
Dawn.
Hi, I had a couple questions. Is there an estimated cost? I wasn't here for the workshop with She, so I'm not sure if this was discussed there, but in the agreement that you're currently negotiating with them, like, is there an estimated cost associated with their provision of administrative services?
there was an average estimate, if I remember correctly. I don't have,
I don't recall the number.
Okay.
yeah, I don't
So
have it in front of me, but there was
Is
an
it like a
average
monthly
estimate.
cost, or does it depend on like how many applications they receive at a time, or?
There was a variation. So they had situations where they provided bottled water, and then they determined that it was a well that qualified for their program or for a GSA well mitigation program. And then they had monthly services and costs for setting up a more permanent tank, for example, and then having costs for a truck to come out every month. And if that happened for an average of 12 months, this is what that costs. They had it all broken out. So it's a combination of those things.
So that'll all be included in that, whatever agreement is approved?
It'll
at
be
some
case by
point?
case depending on what's needed. Yeah.
Okay, so there isn't like a monthly, like, flat fee that they're charging for
No,
administration?
it's essentially labor materials.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that'll come out of the $300,000 budget, that's, okay.
correct.
The technical review committee, it sounds like that's gonna be application specific, or is that gonna be, like 3 standing members and then 1 that's appointed generally, and like, how will that work?
The technical review committee is going to be case on each well. It'll be independent. And if it's in the same area, it might be the same people. But if there's one in the non-district west and there's one in the non-district east, then it would be 2 different committees, you would think, right? So it's going to be per well.
Okay. And just related, just as a comment, related to the concerns about the additional costs and them being spread kind of evenly, but, and, you know, maybe consider including in the plan some sort of a mechanism where there's a repayment obligation, following, like, maybe the GSA fronts the mitigation costs, but if it's determined to be the result of the actions in a specific management area or the failure to abide by the allocation program or what have you, that maybe that management area is then responsible for repaying the GSA for the mitigation costs that were incurred.
Thank you.
Are we doing just questions right now, or questions and comments?
I think either.
Sure.
I'd like to share a few thoughts then. My name is Sean Hembry. I'm the Water and Natural Resource Analyst for Tuolumne County, and I'd like to provide an update as to what the Tuolumne County GSA is doing with their well mitigation strategy. This is something that we've struggled in Tuolumne County with to develop a strategy that is adapted to our setting, because what I can tell you about our GSA is it's only 1,100 acres. It includes, I think, 17 private party held parcels. It includes only 3 wells. It includes 2 known home sites. So it's exceedingly small. And so what is an appropriate response based upon that exceedingly small number of participating domestic well users? I should clarify, 3 of those wells are domestic wells. There is one agricultural well. It has a capacity of, I think, approximately 40 gallons per minute. It is not for irrigation, it is for livestock watering. The lion's share of that area within our jurisdiction is dry rangeland cattle ranching. So again, only 2 known home sites at this point. When we were going to make planning to make possibly an abbreviated well mitigation plan, when we saw the Stregba plan come out, it indicates that this is the Modesto Subbasin well mitigation plan. So that actually seems like it's probably more suited to cover the whole basin anyway, as we also have opted into, the groundwater sustainability plan. One of the things that also you should know about our jurisdiction is we have no management actions, we have no meaningful extraction outside of those few wells. So there's no production scale wells, there's no municipal wells, there's no industrial wells. So there's no management, there's no extraction to manage. So what I would like to pose to you as a possible recommendation is that for those 2 home sites, at least in the current strategy, would be to allow them to opt into your plan. At some point in the future, if there are larger scale extraction operations that come to be, then we would be happy to reconsider, the structure of what that looked like for Tuolumne County to contribute. But Tuolumne County stands ready to contribute as a communications facilitator for those landowners. Also, we do have, I should share that we have a drought resilience plan in the process of a development under SB 552. We also have a dry well reporting portal on our county website. And I can tell you that as of the last time I checked it, which was a few months ago, none of those two home sites, any of those wells were amongst the dry wells that were reported. In the more severe drought, I think in 2015, 2016, 2017, we saw 58 wells impacted, but none of them were within our GSA jurisdiction. So those are just a few thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a clarification, I think Iris said that comments were due the 25th, but the slide said the 24th.
24th,
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
a week from Friday, yeah.
All right, any other comments or questions on the well mitigation plan?
I have a quick question. Did the well mitigation plan include a timeline for wells that could potentially go dry after? I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Did the plan include a timeline for wells that could potentially go dry after adoption of the well mitigation plan? Is there like 6 months after the date that the well goes dry has to be reported, or is that indefinitely? Did we consider that?
So any well that goes dry after the plan is adopted is eligible to apply. It's the wells that may have gone dry between the date of adoption, January 2022, and when this plan was adopted, January 2026. Those wells, there's a 6-month period after this plan is adopted, so between January 2026 and July 2026, for that landowner or well owner to submit an application. So that's a 6-month period that's specified.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks, Liz.
Try to make this my last one. Within the plan, there's a few parts where you guys talk specifically about which I think is fine, but I would recommend maybe to put the GSA first and have like as an agent. I don't know what funding mechanism is, but I don't think we should be talking about it like it's around forever. And so like there's something about access to a property. Well, gets access to the property. It should probably say the GSA or its agents get access to the property, just because if they're ever replaced, you kind of account for that in your document. And then also back to the application stuff, and Eric, you kind of touched on it with the investigation component, but getting other wells on said property identified as part of the application process, I think would be advantageous to understand for the investigation that will be forthcoming. So, thank you.
But just a comment about self-help. We started to put self-help first because we were thinking of the process of a person's well goes dry. We think it would be most effective to go straight to the self-help website or to their phone line. Now, I'm recommending that we have a link on the GSA website, but it will kick you right over to self-help. And then they can do what they do best and swing into action. So that was our thinking in putting self-help first as part of the process. The other thing is our program is going to be adaptive. And clearly, we're hoping that self-help continues to get its funding, which is totally independent of what the GSA gets, so that they can continue doing their good work. If something happens, it might be time for some adaptation.
So yeah, I'll just add to that she is pretty well established now. It's one of the reasons we recommend to go with them. The other reason was administratively, if you have somebody's well goes dry and they want to submit a claim and they are out of water for their domestic system, we don't want them to have to go through the GSA, which is really 7-member agencies, who handles that claim and all those sorts of things. So it was really based around that 24-hour period. The other thing is, we actually, as a GSA using SHE, we won't have a contract with the landowner. The contract will be between SHE and the landowner, and then we will be paying SHE to administrate that and giving the funds to SHE to provide to them. So in this case, our thought is, hopefully it's not a program, we're gonna start turning these groundwater levels around. You're not gonna have these wells going dry because of groundwater management anymore, and it's not gonna be a 20-year-long program. It's gonna be a 5, 10, max 15-year program. And for an organization the size of SHE, I can't remember how many employees they had. I think they had
60, 70, something.
yeah, 70 or plus employees. We saw them sticking around. There's a lot of people going with SHE and contracting with SHE for all these very same reasons. All right, anybody else? All right, thank you very much. There's nobody on the phone, right? With questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate all your input. Item number 4 is the next meeting. Well, I guess I should make sure, none of the member agencies have any final comments on the well mitigation plan, correct? No? Going once, going twice, all right. Item number 4, next meeting, that is just to be determined. We'll have our regularly scheduled meeting, second Wednesday of the month is the plan right now, unless we cancel that. And so moving right into committee comments and reports. I guess I should take public comment on the next meeting. Any public comment on the next meeting?
I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if you have a date for when the application
Not yet. I was gonna mention that under committee comments, but, yeah, committee comments rather. Anybody else? No? Okay. Item number 5 is committee comments and reports. So just a couple things from me real quick. There is a new STRGBA GSA website that's gonna go live tomorrow, so that's exciting. MID staff, thank you very much for all your hard work on that and efforts getting that done. Check that out if you get a chance, and keep an eye out for the next agenda and workshop announcement and materials on the website, as well as our constant contact information, email blast. Also, comments on the management actions workshop have been received. Those are posted online. All those comments are greatly appreciated. Those letters have been posted on the website, so go ahead and check those out. In the meantime, we've been working through incorporating and addressing those comments that have been received within our documents. We're drafting a program similar to what you've got in front of you for the well mitigation plan. We're also doing the same for the management action plan. And workshop number 4 will be, or 5, I guess it will be, 5, this is 4. Number 5, thank you. Number 5 is anticipated in November, so keep an eye out for that. And the focus of that will be management actions. Any other committee comments or reports?
No, I think just to add to your comment, Eric, I think the intent is to provide a draft copy of the groundwater allocation presentation so that we've got time for those that are reviewing it, some time to review it and prepare comments for it. That's the intent there. And just to echo what Eric had mentioned, we do appreciate the comments that have been submitted. That has been very helpful. I think as those of you in this room and others, we sense the urgency behind getting this implemented. Time is of the essence, and so we're trying to meet this January deadline as best as possible. We're confident we can do so, at least establishing the framework. That has been our objective all along, and so, we realize getting a workshop scheduled for November, we're trying our best to do so, working with Woodard Curran and Todd Groundwater to get that kind of set up. But a lot of that is hinged on making sure that we have something to submit and for public review. So we're trying to get that out as soon as we can.
All right. With that, time is 2:35. We will end the workshop. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate the input. Stay tuned.